Hello, I'm Joanne, and this is Jo Mama's Garden. Today, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make some soap. I am going to use some ingredients that I got from the garden and some things that, I did just buy online. Let's go ahead and take a look at the ingredients, what we're going to be using for our soap today. First, what I harvested from the garden is borage. Borage is really good for skin. It is great if you have eczema, dermatitis, those kind of things. It is really good for the skin. And next, we're going to be using some melt and pour soap. I'm not going to make my soap with lye, but I will make this melt and pour soap. Then we're going to add just a little bit of oil here, and this is a melon cucumber oil. The reason I chose melon cucumber is because the borage actually tastes and smells like cucumber. Let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and put the soap in this 4-cup measuring cup. I'm going to place it in the water bath that is heated. And first what I did is I scored the soap base and just pop that out and get it in here. Let's break it where I scored it. Let this start melting down. Just don't want to fling it all over the kitchen floor. Okay, let's see if this will start our process. Let's go ahead and place this in here. All right, now we're just going to wait for this to melt down, and we will add the oil at that time. The reason I'm not adding the oil now is I don't really want it to scorch or burn. I'll add it at the last minute when I can just mix it in thoroughly, remove it from the heat. But while we're waiting for this to melt down, let's take this borage, I'm going to put it in a blender, and I'm going to go ahead and pulverize it so that it can get mixed into this soap. I have placed the borage in the blender, and I made sure to add some of the flowers so that some of the purple can show through in the soap. And I'm going to place it in the blender, place it on the electric motor, and we are going to hit frappe. Give it a couple pulses here. Let's just go ahead. Because it's dry, it's going to take a little bit to get all the way down, to get it into some manageable pieces that we want to have in our soap bars. Let's go ahead and do that again. Now you could take a coffee grinder to do this also. I just really didn't use that this time, but it probably would have been easier. Okay, so now everything has been pulverized. Woo. And this is what it looks like now. This is very fine. I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some in here. Let's see if we want to use all of it. Just put that to the side. Get this out of the way. now that's added. Another thing that I wanted to add to the soap is shea butter. This is pure shea butter. I get it from a local store that actually sources it from Africa in the small communities. They help support them. So it's done very ecologically, so that, you know, they're supporting the villages, and it's not coming through in a huge big market or big stores and make the profit instead of the villagers. I'm just going to place probably about a tablespoon of the shea butter in here. Like I said, it is pure shea butter, and I love this. Okay, so we have that. All this is going to start melting together, starting to melt at the bottom. Now we're just going to wait for that to melt, and we are going to then pour into our silicone, little Borage leaf. We're going to pour it into the silicone soap bar loaf pan. Like I said, it's silicone, so that I will be able to remove this, remove the soap when it is set. It'll take a few hours to set, maybe even overnight, and I'll be able to pull this apart, and then I'm just going to slice it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I like the silicone because you can remove, you know, you can pull this apart, and the whole loaf will come out. Another one that is really great is if you were to invest in a wood form. The wood form, you know, comes apart, it's just held together, kind of with clamps, but it's held together, and then you can cut it. It gives it more of a rustic look. This is going to be more smooth on the sides because of the silicone instead of the wood. So it's really up to you what your preference is. Let's see this in just a moment when it's all mixed together. While this is melting, I wanted to share with you why I love homemade soap. I don't know about you, but whenever you go to a store, whenever I go to a farmer's market, or I go to a really small mom and pop store, I see soap and I have to go over and I have to investigate it. I buy homemade soap almost exclusively because of a couple reasons. One, I know that the soap is going to be pure. It's going to have less products in there that are going to be harmful to my skin. The base I am using, which I didn't tell you earlier, is goat's milk. So I'm putting this goat's milk base. I've added some shea butter for very hydrating, moisturizing part of the soap, and this borage. And the borage is going to help my skin if I have dry areas. Like I said, it's also great if you have eczema or dermatitis. This is not going to be irritating to you, and it's going to leave a little bit of hydration behind. So when you are moisturizing after, you already have a layer that has happened with the soap. As you can see, the soap is slowly melting. We want it to slowly melt so it does not scorch. Okay, now everything has melted. We're going to add some of the scent. Now, I do notice when I stop stirring this, a little bit of a skin forms. So I think I'll just keep stirring, and then we'll go straight to pouring it in our silicone mold. I'm not going to line the mold because I believe that it should just pop out. I could be wrong. Alright, so a half a teaspoon is going to be more than enough, probably an eighth. that's about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Let's mix that in. Okay, next, let's pour it in the mold. Without burning yourself. Don't forget that I had water on it. Just make sure it gets in the mold evenly. And this is the perfect amount. This is what our soap looks like in the silicone mold. We'll just wait for that to set. So our soap has cooled, and I'm going to pop this out and cut it into bars. Just going to put it on this cutting board. I'm going to use this Pampered Chef kind of fancy little cutter. Let's see how that goes. It's been about 2 hours. Alright, let's see if it was long enough. So this is what it looks like. I'm just going to put it into some small bars. And this is what our soap looks like. It's very exciting. And that's all we have to do. Just put them in bars and put them in some Ziploc bags or shrink wrap and give it away to our friends and family. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy making your soap. Until next time, goodbye.